Hi, my name is Amanda Durstein, and today I'm going to be presenting on the topic of hormonal control and specifically the control of the hormones in implantation and early embryonic development. So first, let's talk about fertilization to implantation. So once an egg is fertilized, it becomes a zygote, and it begins mitosis, slowly making its way along the fallopian tube to the uterus, where it will remain throughout the gestation period. So the pathway of the egg cell starts in the ovary, then it travels through the fallopian tube, and then finally its final destination is the uterus. So the dividing embryo takes 4 or 5 days to move through the fallopian tube into the uterine cavity, and the smooth muscle of the fallopian tube relaxes because of the hormone progesterone, and then that's how the transport proceeds slowly. So by the time the developing embryo reaches the uterus, it consists of a hollow ball of around 100 cells called a blastocyst. And you can kind of see this pathway that I was just describing. The first step is ovulation of the egg, and then fertilization in the fallopian tube. And the third step is around days 2 to 4 where the cell division takes place. Days 4 through 5 is the blastocyst reaching the uterus. And step 5 is days 5 through 9 where the blastocyst implants in the uterus. So implantation of the blastocyst into the uterine wall normally takes around 7 days after fertilization. So the blastocyst secretes enzymes that allow it to invade the endometrium, which is the lining of the uterus. And as it does so, the endometrial cells grow around the blastocyst until it is completely engulfed. As you can see on the right, this is kind of an image of the progression of the blastocyst throughout the period. So some of the outer layers of the blastocyst cells will become what is known as the chorion, or the extraembryonic membrane, that will enclose the embryo and form the placenta as well. So the inner cell mass of the blastocyst will develop into the embryo, and as well as 3 other extraembryonic membranes. These membranes include the amnion, which secretes amniotic fluid in which the developing embryo floats, as well as allantois, which becomes part of the umbilical cord that links the embryo to the mother herself, and then the yolk sac, which eventually degenerates early in human development. So the placenta secretes several hormones that prevent menstruation during pregnancy, including human chorionic gonadotropin, human chorionic somatotropin, estrogen, and progesterone. And here is just a diagram of the placenta and kind of the key points that we were just discussing. So as you can see the yolk sac is the tiny yellow part of the placenta. Then you can see the chorion, which wraps around the amnion, and then you can see the amniotic fluid in which the fetus is floating in. You can also see the placenta as well as the umbilical cord. So some hormones of early embryonic development. As I just mentioned, human chorionic gonadotropin, which we can just refer to as HCG from now on. So the corpus luteum remains active during early pregnancy because of HCG. And HCG is a peptide hormone secreted by the chorionic villi and developing placenta. So HCG is structurally related to LH, which is the luteinizing hormone, and it binds to LH receptors. So under the influence of HCG, the corpus luteum keeps producing progesterone, which is a hormone that we mentioned earlier, to keep the endometrium, which is the uterine lining, intact. So by the 7th week of development, the placenta has taken over the progesterone production and the corpus luteum is no longer needed. At that point, it finally degenerates and HCG production by the placenta peaks at 3 months of development and then it diminishes. A second function of HCG is also the stimulation of testosterone production by the developing testes of male fetuses. Another peptide hormone produced by the placenta is HCS. It is also known as the human placental lactogen, HPL. This hormone, structurally related to growth hormone and prolactin, was initially believed to be necessary for breast development during pregnancy and for milk production. And a second role of HCS is glucose and fatty acid metabolism, because it alters the mother's glucose to support the fetal growth. Maternal glucose moves across the membranes of the placenta by facilitated diffusion and enters the fetal circulation. So during pregnancy, about 4% of women will develop what is known as gestational diabetes, which includes elevated blood glucose levels caused by insulin resistance, which is very similar to type 2 diabetes. The cause of this isn't always clear, but these mothers and their babies are at a higher risk for developing type 2 diabetes later in life. So that ties back to the HCS. And then estrogen and progesterone are produced continuously throughout the pregnancy. They're first produced by the corpus luteum under the influence of HCG, and then by the placenta. So with high circulating levels of these steroid hormones, estrogen and progesterone, feedback suppression of the pituitary continues throughout pregnancy, which prevents another set of follicles from beginning a whole new set of development, aka preventing another pregnancy from happening. So during pregnancy, estrogen contributes to the development of the milk-secreting ducts of the breast, and while progesterone is essential for maintaining the endometrium and also helps suppress uterine contractions. So the placenta makes a variety of other hormones as well, including inhibin and prorenin, but the function of most of these remains unclear, and the 4 key ones are HCG, HCS, estrogen, and progesterone. And here are my references. Thank you.